Hello again, all you amazing people. I'm Jerry, and this is Walking and Talking with Jerry K. So come on and walk with me. So today's topic is going to be a wee bit different. Today's topic is going to be why we shouldn't be taking ourselves so darn seriously. But the way that I'm going to illustrate today's talk is by telling you guys a little story. It's a little personal story. But it's about not taking yourself too seriously, because sometimes when you realize that when you take yourself too seriously, you kind of set yourself up for disappointment. Because if you're taking yourself so seriously, it's like your expectations are not grounded in possibility. They are more grounded in reactivity, like how you're going to react to something. You know, because when you take yourself too seriously, a lot of times you view anything and everything as an attack. So I think everybody needs to just lighten up a little bit. So with that in mind, let me give you a little lighthearted story from my past. So back when my youngest son was in kindergarten, he's 28 years old now, so this was a while ago. But when he was in kindergarten, the class was working on their counting from 1 to 100. And at the end of the little lesson of counting 1 to 100, which was weeks, in class stuff, evidently what the school did is they would ask a parent volunteer to come to the school dressed as Zero of the Hero. And so his teacher, my wife and I, we've always been very, very active with our kids' education and stuff, and we were always those chaperone parents. I've been self-employed for a very, very long time, and so I've had a much more open work schedule or schedule. So we were able to carve out time that a lot of other parents couldn't because of employment obligations. So they asked if I would do it, and I said, of course. I'm a big dipshit sometimes, and I have no problem with embarrassing myself, because one thing I do not do is take myself too seriously. So the teacher provided me with this little mask, I think a cape, doing the air quotes, which I think was like an old like tablecloth or something, and then a shirt that had a big zero on it. Well, to say that this was a very unimpressive and almost cheesy costume would be an understatement. So once I got the costume, I went and talked to my wife, who is an incredible costume maker. Halloween is one of her favorite holidays, and one of mine too in our family. My wife has made all sorts of costumes for our whole family. My youngest son, he got into the anime stuff, and he went to some of those conventions and stuff, and my wife made him full-blown outfits, like head-to-toe things, that he went to some of these in. So she was very good at putting together costumes. She still is. So I told her, I said, hon, this is not going to do. So we pulled out some of our costume stuff, and we had boxes and boxes of different costume stuff. And we had a full-body blue, a shimmery blue morph suit. So she took that and created it as the base, and then we got a pair of red shorts, and we found, we might have used the same cape, but then she got a different shirt with a big zero on it, and she got a nice mask, and we basically made a legitimate Zero the Hero outfit, superhero costume. So the day of, I put this thing on. Now please keep in mind, this is 20 plus years ago. So the whole, Marvel universe and everybody walking around dressed like superheroes, it was not a thing, okay? You often didn't see somebody walking around in tights and a cape. So it was going to be a little bit different. Well, I went ahead and put it on, went down to the school, did my thing, got into the class. I greeted everyone. I went into superhero mode. I was like, hello, citizens. It is I, Zero the Hero. Well, as soon as I got in the classroom, My son comes running up right to my, "Are you my dad?" That's what he says to me. Now, I have kind of a, let's say, eclectic humor, almost borderlines on inappropriate at times. I don't know why, but my initial response to him saying, "Are you my dad?" is I looked down to him and I said, "Son, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that." Then I kind of realized what I had said, and I was like, "Oh gosh, come on." Well, I just kind of brushed it off. I did my thing. I had brought like these little donuts that they had given me that are supposed to be representative of the zeros, and the kids counted for me to, they counted to 100 by fives, by tens, by ones. When everything got done, I actually went next door to the other kindergarten class, and I did the same thing over there. And so got all done and everything, and as I started to leave, I was like thinking, dang man, I think he knows it was me. What can I do? So as I'm going home, I'm like, oh, I have a great idea. So as soon as I got home, I changed into one of my suits. I took off everything. I changed into one of my suits. I actually had even, those big thick shoelaces. I had some big red ones, and it was basically a red and blue outfit. And so I had switched out the shoelaces in my tennis shoes with these great big red laces. Well, I had pulled those out and switched back the old ones. Attention to detail, very important. And so I threw on my suit, threw on my dress shoes and everything, and then I went back down to the school because when I left, I only had about half an hour before I was supposed to go pick them back up again. And so I was like, okay. So I get there, I'm standing there in my suit, and when my son comes walking out, he almost sounded like, it looked like a dog that's heard a really high-pitched noise. He kind of looked at me and then did one of these. Huh? Because in his mind, he had just seen me a half an hour earlier. Now all of a sudden I'm standing there in my suit, and my son knew I wore suits every now and again. I know when I had business meetings and things like that, he would know how I would dress. So he came up to me and said, "Dad, why are you wearing your suit?" And I said, "Oh, I've been down in Newport Beach at John's office." And John was our lawyer. And Newport Beach wasn't too far away, but it was far enough that it wouldn't have made sense that just a half an hour earlier I was at his school. So he was kind of like, huh? Okay. So I did the whole, "Hey, so what'd you do today?" And he told me, "Oh, Zero the Hero came." I was like, "Oh, well, that's awesome." So I went ahead and basically played it off. Well, a couple days later, when I was going to pick him up, Nathaniel's teacher had come and basically said, "Hey, I want to give you this." She gave me a big manila envelope, and inside of it were pictures that the kids had drawn of Zero the Hero. And she said, "I wanted you to have this as a keepsake of the experience." And I was like, okay, cool. So now fast forward like 10, 15 years, we're getting ready to move, and we're going through a bunch of stuff. And my son, there's this envelope, and I open it up and I start looking at it, and he looks over and sees what they are. And he's like, "Dad, what are those?" And I go, "You want to take a look?" So I handed them to him. He starts looking at them. He realizes, because one of the pictures in there is his, that he drew of Zero the Hero. And he said, he looked at me, well, he looked at them, and he kind of got this perplexed look on his face. And then he looked back up at me, and he looked back down, and he looked back up, and he looked back, and then he looked at me, he goes, "I knew it! I knew it!" And he was right. And I told him the whole story, and he thanked me for doing it, and he said, "But you should have told me." And I was like, "No, man, I didn't. If I never told you, I would have been okay with that, because it would have been that thing, that an experience that still had that kind of like mysticism connected with it." So basically, here's the moral of this story. I did that because I love my kid. I did that because I knew what I would do would probably be more than what your typical parent was going to do, volunteering to portray Zero the Hero. So here's what I'm going to say to everybody. In the voice of Zero the Hero, listen, citizens, don't worry about taking yourself too seriously. Why? Because at the end of the day, you're going to appreciate those smiles and laughs a lot more than all your seriousness. So, that being said, I hope everybody has a great day. Hope everybody's being safe. Get your steps in, make sure you're hydrating, and don't take yourself too seriously.